A green light enveloped the earth, turning all humanity into stone statues. They weren't dead, but their bodies were trapped and unable to move. Without human activity, the world fell silent. Time passed. The towering buildings of the past were gone, replaced by dense primeval forests. Nature was erasing all traces of humanity's existence, but it couldn't erase the hope for life. Like the boy before him, he maintained his clarity of mind with extraordinary willpower, silently counting the days until now, 3,700 years, until a drop of liquid fell on him. Awakening, Senku didn't immediately become excited, but calmly preserved the scene for future research. Fire was essential for survival, but on Stone Age Earth, Senku could only use the most primitive methods. However, after drilling for a long time, he couldn't even produce a spark. Therefore, he decided to first polish the stone, creating a shovel, then use it to cut vines, weave them into rope, and combine it with a wooden stick to make a simple drill. After his tireless efforts, he finally managed to light a campfire, witnessed by the monkeys. In the days that followed, he gathered wood to build a house, made traps, and captured animals. As the days passed, he not only had clothes but also built a wooden hut. However, the primitive lifestyle had exhausted Senku, and he desperately needed a companion to supplement his manpower. His first choice was his friend Taiju. If he could rescue him, he would have a guarantee for gathering materials. So Senku went to the place where Taiju had awakened, and quickly discovered a heavy hand. Based on this, Senku determined that it was his friend Taiju. But, after digging out Taiju, Senku faced a problem. How could he revive him? After some observation, he discovered a cave entrance leading to the sky in the distance. Upon entering, he smelled a pungent odor. To verify this, he took some petrified hair to experiment with. Seeing this, Senku was overjoyed. He immediately filled a bottle with nitric acid and poured it onto the tree, but after a long time, there was no reaction. Senku tried many more times, but all to no avail. In desperation, he pushed the tree into the cave, letting the nitric acid drip continuously, hoping that one day, a miracle would happen. Oh dear, stop it. This man named Taiju had been petrified for 3,700 years. He was preparing to confess his love to his beloved, but a sudden green light turned him into a stone statue. When he emerged from the cave, the once bustling city of Earth had become a primitive era. Seeing all the petrified humans filled him with fear, but no matter what, he had to find his beloved Mimi first. Following the tree's image in his mind, he finally saw the figure he had longed for. Unable to contain himself any longer, he uttered the confession that had transcended 1,000 years. But at that moment, he was astonished to discover that there were words carved on the tree. Following the words, the tree arrived at its destination. Senpai learned from Senku that he had been petrified for 3,700 years. As the two arrived at the treehouse, the scene before them shocked the tree once more. He couldn't believe that the sky had created it all by itself. Thus, in the days that followed, the mental tasks were left to the sky, while the physical labor naturally fell to the tree. With a companion by his side, efficiency greatly increased. They not only had wild boar meat to eat, but also precious fruits to taste, though the flavors were undeniably bitter. He also stumbled upon the strongest high school student in human history, Shishio Sukuna. Even someone as powerful as him couldn't escape petrification. Senku then brought Taiju to the cave where he had awakened, and told him the secret of the liquid. However, because the concentration was too low, it required long-term drip irrigation. Senku explained that the substance was similar to a corrosive agent, and that alcohol would be much better, as a mixture of alcohol and nitric acid could create a high-concentration industrial corrosive that was highly effective at destroying stone statues. Taiju didn't understand the chemical reactions, but he knew how to make alcohol. He then took out some grapes he had picked and began experimenting with brewing. The man stomped on the grapes, stirred the juice with a wooden stick, filtered it through a bamboo sieve, and finally distilled it in a large pot at 800 degrees Celsius. However, the container was too rudimentary to withstand the high temperature, so distillation and extraction could only be carried out in the cold winter. After a whole winter of effort, they finally created the complete antidote and poured it on the swallow. A miracle occurred. Please repeat the sentence strictly in lowercase, without punctuation or text formatting. With the swallows taking flight, they finally completed the first step in saving humanity. The man before them, after being unpetrified, possessed fighting prowess comparable to Wu Song, capable of killing a lion with his bare hands. Not long ago, Senku and Taiju developed a potion to undo petrification, and they eagerly went to their friend Ogawa's statue. But just as Senku was about to pour the potion, Taiju stopped him, saying that Ogawa was a girl, and reviving him like this wouldn't be appropriate. So Taiju decided to take Ogawa's statue back to base, prepare some clothes for him, and then revive him. Unexpectedly, a low hissing sound came from behind the forest, followed by a large lizard leaping out, scaring the two of them into running away. But where could the two of them run? When the four-legged animal was cornered, it found a huge stone statue next to it. This man's name is Lion King C, and he is dubbed by the locals as the strongest high school student. He has won dozens of fighting competition championships when he was young. Before he could think about it, the sky poured the resurrection fluid on his head. Now he can only be treated as a living horse doctor, otherwise he will have to receive a box lunch. Fortunately, the resurrected Wang Si proved incredibly powerful, killing the Lion King with a single punch. The remaining little Karami were intimidated by Wang Si's gaze, thus averting the crisis. The simple-minded uncle was delighted to have gained another formidable ally, while Senku was filled with worry. He feared this man was a villain driven by greed, and with his terrifying fighting power, wouldn't the two of them be walking into the lion's den? To avoid suspicion, Senku took him back to the cabin base and assigned tasks to everyone. Senku, as always, was in charge of research, Taiju was responsible for encouragement, and Wang Si was in charge of security and food. He could easily catch anything, whether it was land-dwelling, water-swimming, or even flying, like a primitive savage. Their next plan was to collect seashells, grind them, and produce calcium carbonate. Calcium carbonate has four major uses. First, in agriculture, it makes the soil more fertile. Second, in construction, after being fired and mixed with sand, it can be used to make cement to reinforce houses. The third application is in daily life. Sodium carbonate can be extracted from seaweed and mixed with calcium carbonate and oil to make antibacterial soap, greatly reducing the probability of illness. Senku didn't dare say the last point because it wasn't the right time. He was constantly wary of Shishio, as he could see the endless desire in Shishio's eyes. Shishio didn't sleep that night, knowing Senku was wary of him, while Senku secretly made a crossbow. The next day, the group went to the beach. Shishio recalled collecting seashells nearby as a child, wanting to make a necklace for his sick sister. Unexpectedly, he was beaten badly by an old man who was the landowner of the beach, and wouldn't even let him collect the cheapest seashells. Shishio punched the old man to pieces and turned to ask the heavens if they should save all of humanity, including those corrupt old men who abused their power. The world is starting anew. Wang Si only wants to revive innocent young people so that power struggles will cease, thus purifying the minds of all humanity. He wants to help the girl who has been asleep for 3,700 years by using the power of science to prevent all of humanity from being harmed. The girl before them is about to be revived by the protagonist and his companions. They pour a special liquid onto the girl's head. Moments later, the stone statue cracks. The sky immediately interrupts their ambiguous moment, forcing them to choose, run away or stay and fight Wang Si. Just moments before, Wang Si and the sky had disagreed. Wang Si only wanted to revive innocent young people, while the sky wanted to save all of humanity. Just as they were locked in a stalemate, the goofy Taiju ran over. Senku originally had the trump card of reviving Yoru, but now this foolish Taiju had used it against him. It's true what they say, it's not the godlike opponent you should fear but the pig-like teammate. Helpless, Senku had no choice but to demonstrate the resurrection effect to Wang Si in person. They brought out Ogawa, and Senku deliberately said they didn't have enough resurrection leaves, telling Taiju to hurry up and get some from the cave. After reviving Wang Si, Senku immediately rushed to prepare the resurrection liquid. Even if Wang Si knew there was nitric acid in the cave, he wouldn't be able to get the formula. After reviving Ogawa, Senku explained to them that Wang Si was a serial killer who didn't even spare the statues of the old and the children. Unexpectedly, their conversation was overheard by Wang Si, who had just returned. Taiju had no choice but to step forward to stop him, while Senku seized the opportunity to fire the crossbow bolt he had previously made. After ticking Taiju away, Wang Si even said that he was the first person who could withstand his full-force attack head-on. He had just finished praising Taiju when he collapsed and fainted, leaving Wang Si completely bewildered. He told everyone to stop worrying about him and ran off to continue destroying the statues. Senku knew ordinary weapons wouldn't harm Wang Si, so they decided to pull off a big heist and set off to collect materials for gunpowder. This was the last use of their previous calcium acid exploration. Along the way, the three encountered a large Buddha statue. Senku was overjoyed, drooling, saying it was made of bronze and would be very useful later. After finishing his work, Wang Si returned to base to find the three gone. He knew they were going to make gunpowder and other weapons to use against him, so he followed them. Afterwards, the group traveled a long way, arriving at a mountain guided by the sky. The mountaintop had many hot springs of varying sizes. The formation of these hot springs indicated the presence of abundant sulfur, an essential ingredient for gunpowder. The Stone Age dates back 2 million years, while gunpowder originated around 700 years ago. Senku wanted to use his scientific knowledge to advance human civilization by 1.99 million years, creating the first firearm. After enjoying the hot springs, the group began making gunpowder, their first ingredient being sulfur, which was plentiful around the hot springs. The second ingredient is charcoal. Any piece of wood will do. The third is potassium nitrate, made from the nitric acid found in the cave. Mix all three together thoroughly, then shape it using a piece of wood. This foolish old man was about to use a stone to shape it when the explosion occurred. The black smoke was spotted by Wang Xi in the distance, who was rushing towards them at top speed. The outcome was predictable. Upon arriving, Wang Xi kidnapped Ogawa Daiki to collect more materials. Now, no one could rival Wang Xi. Tenku tried to lie, saying he wasn't familiar with Ogawa, but Wang Xi was a ruthless killer. He wouldn't be fooled by such a petty trick. He immediately demanded that Tenku reveal the formula for the resurrection potion, or he would beat Ogawa on the spot. Helpless, Senku had no choice but to tell Wang Xi the formula in detail, since Ogawa was his childhood friend. But the serial killer wasn't satisfied. Even if he knew the formula now, as long as people like Senku existed, human civilization would continue to develop, threatening the young generation's kingdom. He gave Senku a choice: either abandon science and never touch it again, or be killed on the spot. It's unreasonable. You're asking for my answer, Senku thought. He wanted Wang Xi to give him a quick death, preferably a fatal one. Wang Xi readily agreed, intending to sever the nerves in Senku's neck with a single blow, causing him to lose consciousness and die instantly without feeling any pain. Only then did Taiju realize what was happening, but it was too late.